MainMilitary.com. MainMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MainMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MainMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MainMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free, and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free, and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm, and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors, so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
the drums. I hear the drums. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Art Cornke, one day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southwest, north, northeast, and south. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube, live feed, and of course that's on the Liberty Tree Radio channel, AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and Ultra Net, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, CONUS, the outlying two states, the territories, and the clock. It is 5:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Weapons Wednesday. It is the very end of the month. It is September 30th. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K, 2020, Old Earth calendar, 2020, Battle for the Republic, Dance of Swords. The adventure begins. And we are, we're more in the middle of the opening session of the conflict, and it's very obvious. There is no debate, only Zool. Yeah, you think I'm going to waste a whole lot of time with the dog and pony show that took place last night? Come on. What it comes down to is, I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? I know I am, but what are you? Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And needless to say, it's you've got Zool, who is the moderator, and then you have the two candidates, CANDY-dates, yes, candidates. You had the hair guy, and you had basically Rick Moranis on the other side. Wow. And so it was a three-way Zool split with the Zool crew. It's that simple. So everybody pay attention. The falderall continues. The BS continues. It's not a matter of even anybody winning because we all lost on this one. We've been losing for quite some time on the other leg there, but I mean with regard to what's going on. But the vote is irrelevant. Now the dog and pony show with the fake arse character standing up there and the other one basically manipulating the whole thing and nobody having any really say in, well, maybe we should just pull him right out of the room there right now and get somebody neutral up there to ask questions and truly moderate. But again, wasting too much time on that. The bottom line is that it's that sucking sound. Do you hear the sucking sound? That's the kosher mafia pissing in your face and laughing at you about what they're doing to you. Ha 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 ha. There is no debate, only Zool. Oh, Zoolie, you old fooler, you. Anyway, it is Weapons Wednesday. A couple things, if you haven't noticed, and maybe you have, if you've gone over to AIM Surplus, everybody's snagging as quick as they can, which is cool because it's happening all over the place. But AIM has had some pretty good buys in the last 12 hours. Thing is, everybody swooped in, picked it up, and carried it away. But, that's been there. Okay, there's been something there. Right now, I think they have some 40 cal. I believe it is Preview Partisan, but I am going to have to double check, see if that might even be gone by now. It only takes a few hours for this stuff to be sold out. They haven't limited the purchasing that much, but it is, I think, a 20-box limit if it's boxes of fill in the blank, whatever it is. So if you do get in there and you've got allies, you might want to kind of have a cooperative agreement that if somebody runs into something, figure out what the price is you want to spend. And then just give everybody the cue up that whoever sees it, grab it, drag it away, and you're done. And then everybody divvy it up when it shows up. But the big thing is whoever the scout and reconnaissance person is at that moment, you need to take advantage of it. The 9mm they had last night was pretty good price. They've got some PPU, 40 Smith & Wesson, 165 grain FMJ, $24.95 a box, which is average price right now, not a bad price. They also have some PMC 38 Super Plus P. So if you got any of those big old Colt frames in 38 Super, a lot of guys do. A lot of people bought them, especially in Rock Island was, making and cranking out a bunch of them here, 5-6 years ago. $21.95 a box, and it's PMC bronze, so that's, of course, their premium grade or their top grade. The Koreans do good ammo. PMC is Korean. We should have more of it, but we piss on Korea every chance we can, and so Korea is like, in the back over in the corner in the child's seat. Whereas all the other people that don't like us as much, they let their stuff come in all the time. Like Turkey. Turkey's got a bunch of junk coming in right now, and they don't like us. They hate us. They're like the rest of these turds out there that we have in the Middle East. And I understand why they should. I mean, after all, with all the garbage and pot stirring we've done, but Korea, well, they kind of done whatever we told them to do for the most part. They're a free and independent nation to a degree, but not much. And yet we really piss on PMC and all the rest, and that's consistent. So just a heads up. Good stuff, and it's over there. There's only 9 flavors of ammo right now for the moment. Keep an eye on them, because as we finish the program here today, the next 2 hours, they'll start posting and putting their inventory up. They usually are shipping and receiving orders during the day, because they only have so many people at each one of these businesses. And then at night is when they seem to be pushing the inventory up onto the shelf. So if you catch it in the evening and you see it, I would recommend you buy it. You guys, also the 32 ACP that was there, the Norma, that's gone. But who knows? Maybe they'll get some more. There is another couple of places, as we know, or several locations to watch. It looks like somebody has gone out and swept up most of the 8mm Mauser. Was the most affordable on the market out there for, centerfire ammunition in any quantity. 7.62 by 39. Oh, that was another thing. Today, most everybody had 7.62 by 39 at the middle of the day. By 2 o'clock, everybody was cleaned out. So everyone's grabbing all the AK ammo, obviously, the 5.56. Also some 5.45 by 39. That's gone, too. That was over at AIM, but it was also at, I think, UN Ammo and a couple of the others. Came in all at the same time, probably from the same supplier. And they got it, and everybody saw it was there. They swooped in and hawked it out. It is gone, which is good. Now, I'm going to point something out about that. There is no such thing as hoarding. Hoarding is when you have communists in charge or police state types in charge who don't want to or don't plan on preparing because they're going to use propaganda to declare that what is yours is theirs. That's what these pigs are all about when they do you're hoarding. Well, there is no such thing. If we're really a wealthy country, if we were a wealthy country, the word hoarding would be irrelevant. So you see, we've got everybody so stupefied, and the idiot sticks, of course, that really won't do anything to take care of themselves. They just plan on stealing from you after you've taken your money and put it where you want. They take their money and put it into stupid things. Then, of course, now all of a sudden there's nothing available because they've invested in stupid things that are, meaningless. You have the things that now they've decided they want, so you're hoarding because you're bad, because you spent when it was wise. You're the grasshopper, and I should say you're the ant. They're the grasshopper, and the grasshopper believes that they deserve everything you have, which is why we're buying the ammo in the first place, because we're going to need the ammo to get rid of the people who decided they didn't want to prepare or thought, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to go take it from you. Well, we'll just make sure you can hold on to one or two of the bullets there for a minute, and we'll dig them back out and use them again. But that's the case. That's how you're dealt with. That's really the situation where how it's going to work. So another thing here real quick is, again, there is no such thing as hoarding ammo. We need every round out of the warehouse and store so government can't lock it down. It is apparent and obvious last night that the ring knockers, spit swappers, the Cthulhuists, the Satanists, the Zool worshippers laughing their ass off at America. And because of that, writing's on the wall. The gun grab by the Democrat and Republicans is coming. It's not an if. It's just a win. It's just a win. And for that reason, you all better be squared away, and that means continue to hunt for and pull out everything we can. That way they can't just ride out with a few trucks, go to centralized warehouses and a handful of stores, bolt the doors shut, put some guards on the front to look grim, and you can't get to it. If we clean the shelves off, I don't care where it is. I don't care who bought it. I really don't. It's out and about. It is now its currency. It's now money. It's now a product that will be traded and will be exchanged and will be used. But it will be useful and used because we can get to it. Which, by the way, if they'd had their way, you wouldn't be able to. But we can. And so we're going to focus on making sure that we continue to have everything squared away and ready to go so that when we do need it, we got it. And put it where it needs to be, which is pre-deployed in many locations. Don't just have it all piled up in your place. Always remember that. Spread it out. Now, caching in many locations. Uncle Fred's or Uncle Bob's farm way out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe if you're smart, as I've said many times, talk to Uncle Bob there and say, hey, you're not using the outbuildings anymore. He's kind of rolled back on farming, or maybe he's not even doing any farming. Maybe he just bought the property. Nope. Tell you what, Bob, Uncle Bob, let me fix up the back end of the barn there, and I'm going to be putting some barrels and some other stuff, and I'm going to leave a camper and an extra truck here. Anything happens, we'll come out and help you take care of the farm. Is that okay? Well, Uncle Bob was going, yeah, it's a good idea. In fact, I'll tell you what, a few of the things I purchased, and we'll go in on some stuff together, and that way we're better prepared still. See how that works? If you're smart, you're going to be talking to Uncle Bob or Fred or whoever it is, and you've got another place where you can cache material that will be useful for the long haul. Also, a retreat. If you can't afford to buy another place yourself, at least if you have an ally, you have mutual interest, mutual liberty interest. And so building up and putting reserves in another location is very useful. By the way, I would still put them in yet other locations, smaller caches, and multiple caches that are designed to be transport cans. You have to move from wherever you are to maybe Uncle Bob's farm. Better have some backup in between just in case. Out in the middle of nowhere, away from everybody else, not in the middle of the field. Put it out of sight, out of mind, deep, dark in the woods. You move to that point, you recover it, you rest, you observe for your next move, and then you move on until you get to Uncle Bob's as quickly as you possibly can. If you don't have to do that to get to Uncle Bob's, you still have the caches out there in the event something happens at your new retreat location. And Uncle Bob should know where the stuff is. Everybody should know where a percentage is. And each person has a cache that is their benchmark cache, so that if somebody's grabbed, you tell them that, go the roundabout way, but take them to this location. If Fred has cache number 1, Bob has cache number 2, I have cache number 3, Julie has cache number 4. If something happens where somebody gets grabbed, and we know it happens, guess what? We're going to that cache and waylaying the enemy, trying to recover what our person is told to take them to. Well, I know where there's some stuff. I got to show you, though. You see how that works? And before they get there, you've already got your people in place, and then you harvest the creatures that took your friend or your family member. Again, look at them as mobile resupply pods. The important thing is we'll be working if we have to do any physical maintenance on anyone. We're not going to be helping the people that did that. We will take care of our own if they're hurt. We're going to recover them, and then we'll feed the rest of the catfish farm. See how that works? So, another thing here, again, watching the dribble last night, is it basically broke down into nothing but intentional confusion/disorder. That's the classic dog and pony show. Wallace did exactly what he was paid to do. The characters all there did exactly what they were paid to do. The whole scam. Anybody notice how it's like, by the way, seating, I thought that was rather comical. You have the special in the camera, or more commonly in the camera shot, spread out people in the front. But what about all the people right behind all the people that were spread out because they needed to be faking social distancing when everybody else was sitting side by side by side by side by side? Did anybody notice that? They showed you all this time they spent with all this folderol, hours of setting this BS up. And when all is said and done, especially the social distancing garbage, who is that for? I mean, especially since, let's flip the camera around. If you look at it from the speaker's perspective, that's where it really became obvious, is you got a handful of dinks up front. Oh, they're family or something. Who cares? Everybody should be spread out. Is there some special stinking force field that stops like where the front row of people side by side by side by side by side are, and the rest of the asshats that were forward of that? Explain that to me. This is how ludicrous and stupid this whole thing is, and it's epitomized in one location like that where you see all of this drivel going on, and it makes no sense whatsoever. What I do want is the magic force field button. Is there an installation system? Is there a special package deal? Do I have to order it off Wish or something? Because I just want that special force field deal going on. That way you can have a bunch of people piled up in one spot, and you hit the special forward, force field, switch, and, that backs them off, and, it keeps all the effluvia and all the germs over there, slash the virus, but over where you are, it's apparently not it's not gonna get over here somehow. I don't know how that works. Oh, wait a minute. Am I being facetious? Yeah, I am. I am. But I'm tired of these pieces of trash, again, across the board. The election is a farce. We all know that. It's not even going to be, there's no reality to it. Nobody's going to be settled with it anyway, one way or another. Supposedly the frothing at the mouth communists are going to, go crazy town. If they try to do that, we're going to shoot them. If they decide to, plug in the communists, then they're going to try to attack us. We're going to shoot them. So it's, I think, the we're going to shoot them scenario that pretty well is settled. It's just a matter of, I wonder how it's going to start, and we get to shoot them. Where does that go? How soon does that get plugged in? That's the only real question.
I don't know. Did you actually get to listen to the debate last night at all? You probably didn't. You usually don't. I
avoid it like we unfortunately, you know how it works. If you go to do anything on any social media now, guys, you get it shoved down your throat whether you want to see it or not.
Well, I was invited to watch it by Anthony. I think I've sent you to his YouTube channel before. So I was watching it, and I thought it was cute. The end question was Trump wanted Biden to disavow Antifa, and Biden wanted Trump to disavow the right wing, and they both pretty much didn't and said, you know what, whatever happens, we're shooting each other.
Right.
If you read between the lines, that's pretty much what they were saying.
Well, anybody who's stupid enough to piss on their own, and again, even still, really Proud Boys need to back down. It's like, oh, okay, well, back down, whatever. It's like, why? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, whoever is stupid enough to do that cuts their own legs off. The other side, of course, is already committed. The communists are committed people. I mean, if you don't think so, what do you think's been going on for the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years? But really intense, obviously, in the last 12 months.
I'm watching the propaganda spiel today. They're talking about how they didn't talk about any of the issues. The questions that were issued by the mediator, that news reporter who's sitting there in front of them, none of them, except for two, had anything to do with the issues.
Oh, they were completely. Yeah. I saw one. I saw the one beginnings comment. It was like, no, this is such a pickle, smoke, and mirrors. Tongue twisting, word twisting, BS session.
Questions on policy that came up the whole night, basically, and they both skirted them.
Yeah. Well, again, we come before you to stand behind you, and what would you like us to say to make you feel good? And without, of course, addressing any of the issues. Let me bring one up that I would have brought up myself. Just Mr. Trump, in fact, Mr. Biden, are you going to follow through on this? Hillary Clinton is involved in a whole series of scandalous violations of the security clause with regard to the executive branch. And why haven't you, over the last 4 years, brought charges against her and other associates? Anybody else, were they any other kind of peon or individual, would be in jail right now. You would be in jail. Remember that comment? It's not been a few weeks. It's been years, 4 years. And nothing has been done. Absolutely nothing.
I will give Trump credit for this, though, where they asked him, it's like, will you do a peaceful transfer like the peaceful transfer that happened with you? And he laughed and he said, what peaceful transfer? You guys were against me the whole way. You kept trying to impeach me. I had to fight that off. You kept trying, and I had people in my own ranks that were slitting my throat because they were still working for the Democrats. Of course, that's partly because you didn't clean the swamp like you said you would.
Right. It's his own fault. He knows how to use the word "you're fired."
Yeah,
right?
It was a really, it was a good statement on his part because no, the Democrats didn't give up peacefully. They didn't accept it. They've been fighting it every step of the way. And even just now, as we came up to this debate, what were the Democrats talking about? Oh, we're going to try to impeach him again. That way we can stop him from doing the Supreme Court pick. Get him tied up in legal work that way. So, yeah, it really has been a peaceful transition on the side of the Democrats. They totally accepted Trump as, commander-in-chief, didn't they? That's why they've ignored his executive orders and other stuff that he's put forward. But, I don't like Trump anyway. You guys know my opinion of him. He is a front dummy. He's bragged about being the type of person who buys politicians and puts them in the White House. Close buddies with the Clintons up until he was running against them, and even then still going to parties with them after the fact.
And again, where are we now? 4 years later, one of the things that I've been trying to explain to people is, guys, I look at the thing with the last 4 years, the same as all the other scams we've seen, but the worst one, well, there's actually two, but they're parallel, and they ran side by side with each other. One was the Vietnam vets, the military people that were prisoners of war we left behind in Vietnam. And we were told to stay calm. Next year we're going to do something. Don't get noisy. Oh, there's secret deals at any minute now, and we're going to get them back. And don't you make any waves. And oh, really? And so there'll always be these idiot moderates who would go along, and because of it, they would betray everybody else's efforts. And you know what, guys? 20 and then 30 years passed. We never got any of them back. Another variation on that is the same routine where, next year, and by the way, Biden and McCain were both tied into both of these, is the Agent Orange. Agent Orange, everybody knew about Agent Orange, Agent Green, and Agent Purple, okay? And Agent Orange is the one you hear about, but all three of them were the ones that were killing people from the war. And, that's crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. But next year we'll find out. Next year, be calm. Don't get noisy. Just, sit back and shut up. The professionals are a year later, 2 years later, 4 years later, 6, 8, 10, 20, 25, 30 years later. 30 years later, guess what? We're going to acknowledge Agent Orange is killing you. It's not psychosomatic, it's killing you, but you know what? They're mostly dead anyway. Ha ha! What a funny, ha ha! It's the same thing they're doing with this BS with this piece of trash traitor we've got called Hillary Clinton, but the problem is she's just riding with a bunch of other punk traitors that are all tied into the Jewish mob over there in the Middle East. And that's why they're not doing anything, because they're two sides of the same coin. That's why. Because otherwise, again, next year, only you should be in jail. You would be in jail. No, you wouldn't. 4 years later, not at all. Years. 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 And the Vietnam, that's why that POW MIA flag, when I look at it now, it's like it's still being flown, but it's like, well, okay, guys, well, everybody sit on their dead ass, and everybody got complacent with all of these globalists and let the globalist professionals. And what did they do? Those guys rotted over there and died by inches, and they left them there. Why? Because it was politically correct. And everybody else who wanted to be political, let's not make waves, let's be calm. Don't get noisy. See, so this is the problem with that. Again, who will screw you? The moderate will screw you every time. Always remember that. And so here we are at the crossroads once again. It's going to be really fun to watch, and it's going to be exciting, but we are headed towards October now. It is Weapons Wednesday, by the way. Ed, tell you what, our traditional Weapons Wednesday, bottom of the hour break. We'll be going there in a minute. Ed knows what we're talking about. It is Weapons Wednesday. For all of you out there, organize, arm, equip, and train as militia. Establish a 510 program in your area of operation. Set up communications. We'll be back.
trying to kill me. I must shoot him before he shoots me. I will. Before God, I swear this creed. My rifle and myself are defenders of my country. We are the masters of our enemy. We are the saviors of my life. So be it, until there is no enemy, but peace. Amen.
Why come ye to the red coats? What mind your madness fills? In our valleys there is danger, and there's danger in our hills. Oh, hear ye not the singing of the bugle, wild and free? Well, soon you'll know the ringing of the rifle from the tree. Oh, the rifle, oh, the rifle. In our hands will prove no trifle. You may ride a goodly steed, you may know a stern master. You forward march with speed, but you'll learn to back much faster when you meet our mountain boys and their leader Johnny Stark. Lads who make but little noise and always hit the mark. Oh, the rifle, oh, the rifle. In our hands will prove no trifle. No graves at home, back across the briny water, and hither ye must come like bullocks to the slaughter. But if we the job must do, then the sooner 'tis begun. If flint and trigger hold but true, the quicker 'twill be done. Oh, the rifle, oh, the rifle, in our hands will prove no trifle. Oh, the rifle, oh, the rifle, in our hands will prove no trifle.
And we are back, and that bump is a double cap, either with remember a pan with black powder, or a cap, and then main charge going off. Boom, boom. That's why you had that rim shot the way that they are. That's what that was intended for, and that song goes back to the American War for Independence, through to the War of 1812, also used in the Civil War and even in the Pan Am War. So just a little heads up there, and was reworded. It's like Waiting for the Wagon. It's another song that's just about as old. Waiting for the wagon, waiting for the wagon, waiting for the wagon, and we'll all take a ride. The Thomas Jefferson wagon. Wait a minute. No, it's not quite that old. But, oh, yeah, actually it is. That's what's bizarre. And again, reworded all the way up to even lightly used in World War I / the Great War to lure us into that stupidity. So, again, for the ring knockers and the Woodrow Wilson / the Biden types. Yeah, although Biden is pre-stroked, so that, going in, we're going to know already that he's brain dead, and they can plug the other communist in almost immediately, which it's obvious that's the agenda. The meat puppet, is going to be absolute. I see some faces being made by Netanyahu, and it's kind of funny because you think about it. Those faces, people are wondering, why is he making such grim, weird faces? Well, it's because he's got to put that big rubber glove on that goes all the way up to his armpit, and every time that he puts his hand up that bunghole of Biden or Trump, he's got to wiggle through all that feces and stuff so he can get his thumb and fingers around that jaw and the upper palate so he can make the mouth move. And that gets pretty playing after a while, because you got to remember, you hope the glove doesn't slip and you end up with some of that greasiness around that bunghole up underneath your armpit there. It's tough when you're dealing with meat puppets. You got to remember that. That's why Biden's got that. Well, Biden. That's why Netanyahu has some of these really weird expressions that have been showing up. It's weird, but it's true. It's like he's thinking about, the fact that he's working all these meat puppets over here in Washington, D.C., and it does take a little bit of effort. You got to get stinky. Got to come up from the rear and, work your way up through the bowel there to get to that mouth, to get it so it woggles and moves right without the possibility of slippage. You don't want them spewing something out that, isn't quite copacetic with the agenda. So the meat puppets are managed accordingly. And, yeah, I know it's more like a tentacle, really, but, think about it. Yeah, one way or another, yeah. So anyway, we did see the meat puppets operating last night. We saw lots of confusion. I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? And then I know well, wait a minute, we've got that other thing, Zool, sitting there too. The one who was the fake arts moderator slash, it wasn't moderation, it was just, play acting to the nth degree and an insult to all of us. A real insult. Anyway, a couple of things here real quick. People have been asking about the helmets because, here's the thing. You need a helmet no matter what. Bouncing your head off a branch at 3 o'clock in the morning, pitch black as you're running through the woods and you didn't realize you should have ducked a little lower. I've seen this, okay? Gacking a guy's forehead open and peeling the skin from just above the eyebrow up to about the beginning of the hairline, and the skull's kind of exposed. You kind of slide it back down because you don't want to see it. Usually it just kind of flops down on its own. Oh, yeah, that's really great. See, that's why soft caps don't offer a whole lot of protection in that respect. So there are times when a bump helmet or a real, steel helmet, combat helmet, Kevlar helmet, or whatever kind you want, whatever you can afford, makes more sense in general, okay? In fact, helmets in general, it's good to have them almost all the time. For the movies, the soft caps are really great, but again, most of the time, if you're truly planning on being in contact, there's too much other junk floating around, not just bullets that can get you. Not only that, just the stuff you don't see. Okay, a piece of rebar can be pointed right at you, and then you don't really have time to think about it. And by the time you realize it, you've already thrown your body down or moved your body where, you couldn't help it. You might still impact on more of the same, because if you ever seen clusters of rebar in damaged concrete areas, guys, that's like steel punji stakes waiting to hook you. And remember, they're corrugated, so trying to pull your arse off, okay, going in, they get really, they got a lot of aggression. You got weight, dead weight. Trying to pull yourself off, oh yeah, that's why they usually cut the rebar, because they also don't want to just pull it out and create a bigger, nastier wound channel. The rebar or the stock or material that's there, if you cut it off, it's kind of keeping you from bleeding to death, okay? To a degree, actually, it's kind of keeping you alive, even after it shish kebabbed you. So we want to try and avoid that, which is why Kevlar is kind of handy for full wraparound vests, because all the other junk, it's not just bullets. Okay, that's where the plates are really kind of, have become, kind of monolithic in mindset. Well, we're going to have plates. Yeah, plates on top of. If you want to carry plates, fantastic, but you want the wraparound armor, in addition, or you should say first, and then in addition, the shock plates / whatever your core plates are, to deal with the incoming practice of bullet projection that takes place, because people are usually trying to aim, okay? Again, it's really important that you invest. Now, the reason I bring this up, somebody's asking about these new, what they're calling militia. That's actually the name of the helmet. It is a steel helmet that will stop bullets. They are steel helmets. These are not new, by the way. There are several different helmets out there that actually have comparable defense. Even the old U.S. piss pots from World War II. Everybody goes, that's World War II. Guys, those were the most sophisticated helmet development of the day, and were the equivalent to when we came out with the Pasgat Kevlar helmet at the end of and after Vietnam. Seriously, nobody had a helmet like that. The other countries, what they had to make to get there, and they did make thicker, heavier steel helmets. They didn't produce as many of them as they could have, simply because of cost. But the fact of the matter is that the dual layer, that inner helmet liner, everybody goes, well, it's a sun helmet. No, that's not what that is. It was ballistic. That they gave you was the M1 helmet was a laminate ballistic armored helmet. And that material that's underneath, have you ever left that out in the weather? Have you noticed how long that stuff lasts? I mean, the liner inside will rot right off, but the helmet liner itself will be out there sitting in the weather for an indefinite period of time. It is designed to be a deflection system. Is it going to stop a bullet head on every time? No. But then again, pretty much give it the opportunity. There is a bullet out there waiting to plow its way through whatever you're wearing. There is no such thing as bulletproof. There's bullet resistant, but there is not bulletproof. However, these new helmets are in the full steel cycle again that we've seen. This has come and gone over the last 120 years. This is the year 2020. 100 years ago, full steel deflectable helmets, deflection helmets, were available back when they had 8mm and 30-06, which are grossly more powerful than the 223 for penetration. And they were out there in force. 20 years before that, 1900, everybody had some armor out there like that. The age of steel was here. Guys, that wasn't the dinosaur age. That was 1900. We were building battleships that had 18, 20, and 25 inches of homogeneous armor plate slapped on the side of them. And we could build any steel we wanted. So the new helmets, if you watched any of the videos, and the one that's really dominant right now is called the militia helmet. It's not a wraparound Pasgat type, but more like a skull bucket, okay, a short skull cap helmet. And in the demonstration, they show you with 9mm, they show you with 40 caliber, 45, 357 Magnum, and what it does, and even with rifle rounds. Now, don't expect it to stop everything. And by the way, I would point out, yeah, it did stop all those bullets, but it's still going to ring your gourd. Okay, so don't think that you're just going to be like Superman or watching some of these CGI movies where the guy gets, dunk, 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 and his head goes this way and his head goes that way, and he's like, oh, wow, I got to brush that off. No, you won't brush it off, but you will probably survive. However, you'll think about this, that kinetic energy, when it hits the helmet, let's point something out, the bullet gets stopped, but you're still that billiard ball in line with the cue ball, and the bullet's doing about, what? It could be doing 1,800 feet per second to 2,600, 2,700 feet per second if it's 223. And when it hits, if it does stop it or heavily deflect it, you're still the 6-ball, the 4-ball, and all that energy just got transferred to you. Now, do you think that you're just going to brush that off? No, but you are going to survive it. That's the big thing. So understand that this is not a CGI movie. This is not, a Marvel episode. This is not a video game. But all of this protection will keep you alive. It means I can maybe pick you up. Well, let me put it this way. When you got hit in the head with that rifle round and the bullet got stopped or deflected, and you drop to the ground and you're kind of dazed, we're still under fire, and all the other bullets are spitting down range. You're still trying to put a bullet up your arse, up your shoe, or maybe it fell forward and they're pattering around your shoulder there, trying to put a bullet right along the side of your head and, slip in between the armor. Yeah. So guess what? Even though you're not dead, but we'll probably have to grab you by that pull collar on the back of your gear and drag you into cover so that you can recover from the excitement of having stopped that bullet. But you will live. Now, everything else is up to, again, prior proper planning, which prevents piss poor performance. You better know what your SOP is. You better have an idea of what's going on. And you better understand it's not a movie or a video game, okay? They're good pieces of equipment. I would point out, I wouldn't care if they showed it and, oh, wow, it didn't stop 357 all the way, or it didn't do that. Hey, well, okay, considering what you see most of these demonstrations doing, be happy. Okay, guys, it's a hell of a lot better than your beaner hanging out there in the breeze, isn't it? Yes, it is. So let's keep this in proper perspective. Any helmet, though, will still protect you from a lot of the junk flying through the air. Same thing, that billiard experience. Remember, if you get hit, if rocks get hit, pieces of metal get hit, and they ricochet off of the bullet or they're pushed off of the bullet, they're now traveling maybe at half the velocity, but if they make it to your skull or they make it to your flesh, they're chewing into you. Because trust me, 1,800 feet per second, 1,600 feet per second, what's the velocity of a 45 ACP round? It ain't that high. And it does a good job of putting your arse right down, doesn't it? So other armor or any armor helps. This is why I've said even old Kevlar, old ballistic armor of any kind, buy it, use it, keep it. Wear it. Go ahead, caller, jump in there. Who do we have?
Hey, this is Carl in Virginia. I bought one of the British DPM flak vests from Sportsman's Guide, and that thing is awesome. For only $90, you get it's thick Kevlar. It's soft body armor, but it's thick. Way more thick than the old German Flecktarn one. But these things are super clean. They're like brand new. Nobody ever was issued these things. So fantastic deal.
I kind of expected that because, you see, that's one thing about the Brits. They have a vast amount of material in reserve where they're just not allowed to sell it to us. And so I don't know if this came directly from the British inventory or if it came from something out of Europe. You know what I mean? A lot of the stuff gets pre-deployed, and then other countries buy it, and they keep it on hand, and then it finally gets slid sideways to us. That's how a lot of the American equipment shows up. It doesn't show up because it was directly sold by us. It shows up because we gifted it to another country, and they sell it back to us, which is, how it works. So... excellent. And again, think about it. You see what I'm talking about, using it to armor up your car now, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's real easy to do. Yeah, it's so simple, it's ridiculous, and it really lends itself towards, well, think about it. You wear the one you bought, you put one on each seat just like I described, and there isn't anything pretty much getting any of your core components. You're still not bulletproof, okay, but you're bulletproof wherever the multiple layers are. Think about it, with that front and back layer on the seat, and then you wearing a vest like that, it's got to plow through a lot of junk to get to you. In fact, it would actually, again, you're not going to feel it the way you would if it was just, the vest that you were wearing. So this is an excellent solution. And again, it looks cool. Pretty good camouflage, isn't it? I like the DPM.
Yeah, it's awesome camo. Yeah, awesome camo. And like I said, it's brand new. It's not, there's no sweat stains. There's no wear on it. There's no dirt. You're not, washing, Ramadi out of it or anything in the wash. It's all brand new stuff.
Now, question, it's the same model that we have in the picture. Everything pretty much look the same?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because there can be variations, and I would expect that because they design a unit like that, and there'll be a stack of them, and they don't necessarily eyeball every one. And it's kind of cool because sometimes you end up with extra pockets or other things that would be, useful. Now, here's the other question. They did not have an inside image of that, and I haven't had a chance to go through them. The one you have, is there a Velcro closure, or is there a zipper for holding the armor in place, inside the sleeves?
I believe it's a zipper.
Okay, cool. See, there could be either way. And if they're zippers, is it metal or plastic?
The metal one.
Okay, so that's the middle age, because plastic was the newest, okay? In fact, if you look on the Dutch equipment, the Dutch adopted the British plastic zipper for modular, accommodation because they integrate a lot of equipment. It's NATO. I'm just curious, because there's, again, Velcro, steel zipper, plastic zipper. That's basically the step-by-step. And the Velcro's not a problem either. It's just that, and again, if it's brand new, like you're saying, or almost new, the Velcro would hold up just fine for a very, 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 very long period. It does have the wraparound sash belt, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
again, that's very high quality Velcro on that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, it's got a buckle belt as well. I guess that's supposed to hook into load bearing equipment.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that the idea behind that is that it cinches down all of the gear so that everything is in place. If you look at the same era DPM backpacks and assault gear, it's not Molly, although Molly overlaps with it. It's the DPM, I don't know what they called that. Was it the TA, I think it'd be like the TA-94 or TA-95 gear. It's not ours, it's British, obviously, but it's a tactical assault gear / Model 95, I think. And that's not the year, though, of the production. It's just it's a TA-95 or TA-94, and it's the next generation where they started to upgrade and use more of the nylon and Nomex like we did. And that's where you see the really, really rich and strong camo pattern, too. It's well built and it wears well. It's going to wear out ways. In other words, it's not going to wear out and just fade out on you. The material, the quality at that period of time is probably, I think, the zenith for a lot of the equipment. The new junk, they've dropped back down in quality. The newest, like the multicam, I call it multiscam, but it's the equivalent. I've been seeing a lot of that, and if you look at the wear and tear on the DPM pattern, and then you look at the new stuff, it just falls apart faster as far as the color. It fades to the point where the camo on the new stuff almost just really isn't there. Whereas the DPM that you've got on that vest, most all of that era of equipment. The color set was really good. The pattern is decent. I love it for Michigan. It works. In fact, it's phenomenal for Michigan. And if you go with a mix of the British and the Dutch, the only difference is the Dutch has more doe skin in it, more of the doe brown. And it's a good complement because between the two, it gives you pretty much the color range you want going from summer into fall and running into winter, which is, decent. Otherwise, anything else did you pick up from Sportsman's Guide that was useful, or the vest was just the latest on the list?
That was the main thing. I also got some of the 3-packs of the Chinese military belts.
Oh, yeah.
Those things are great. Yeah, you get 3 of them for like $7, something like that. Those are just slightly more narrow than a GI pistol belt. So anything that can fit on the GI pistol belt with the Alice clips, you can also put on the Chinese one. You can also fit things like more like misfit kind of items, like the rubberized German G3 mag pouches. Yep. Those they fit on there perfectly.
Yeah, since it's not quite as tall height-wise. In other words, we look at it like the width of the belt. That'll slip into a lot of the East German and Eastern European AK mag pouches and stuff too. So it actually would accommodate a lot of you guys that are working on integrating all the other different systems, like we've been talking about. Cherry pick from all the different sources. And actually,
now,
go ahead.
When I got these, they were adjusted to the size of an average Chinese troop, which is about equivalent to a less. But you can adjust those belts. I gave one to a friend of mine, and he's quite more girthy than me. He's about 300-something pounds, and it fit on him. So I said, "Congratulations, here's your belt."
Right,
so and worked well. Yeah.
Well, one of the other things over at Sportsman's Guide, since you brought that up, they do have some pouch bundle deals. You got to go through and look to see what they have in piles of, and it'll be like 10 of this, 5 of that, 6 or whatever. So look to see what they have, and if you're looking for something that'll uniformly take all of the different types of pouches you're probably looking at, guess what? You go with the Chi-Com belt, and that saves you having to fight to snuggle up some of the items that are there. They're going to slip right on and they'll attach immediately. So, without any complication. And the nice thing is with the slip-over type is that they actually can't fall off. Until they fall apart, they're not coming off the rig, which is kind of neat. I don't have a problem with the Alice clips. We use everything, but the slip-on systems, there's a bunch of stuff like that that's out there. Very, very reliable for somebody who's, they don't have to worry about fidgeting with anything. It's going to stay where it's put. You don't have to, necessarily husband all the gear as much. Even with the Molly gear, you got to keep an eye on those snaps. And one of the things that, guys are doing is, supplementing them with a little extra tape like we've done on all the junk that's out there. It's not new. It's just every system has its plus and minus. So this definitely, Go ahead.
Look, I have been using small Molly pouches on these Chinese belts, and they will work on there. What I do though is I will use the little plastic clip that comes with the belt that holds it from keeps it from slipping. It's got little teeth on it, and so I'll slip that on the belt like it's supposed to. But it'll also go through it'll go through the top horizontal loop that's on the back of the Molly item. So it holds it in place that way. Plus, you have the regular Molly strap with the snap on it that holds in place. Now, I've been doing that with pistol mag pouches and with grenade pouches, and so far it's working real well. That way, it's not just the snaps you're counting on. I've been using the USGI Molly grenade pouches to hold. They will hold 5-round stripper clips of 8mm Mauser ammunition. So you can hold 25 rounds per grenade pouch. It fits in there perfect.
Yeah, and the neat thing is there's a number of different smaller pouches, especially in the Molly gear, that you can mix and match depending on if you've got an odd magazine or something too. The good thing is that there's been so much of it put out there. The grenade pockets are perfect because they also have all the extra keeper bucklers, and you don't have to worry about stuff jiggling away on you, which is cool. I was just going through this while we were talking. If you guys go to Sportsman's Guide, just to understand what we're talking about, just punch in surplus pouches, and then go through the scroll and take a look at some of the bundle deals where you have quantities, 4 of, 6 of, 10 of. They've got some Italian mag pouches for pistol. They're white, which, by the way, if you want to do a snow camo rig, not a bad idea. If you look around, you can actually cherry pick everything you need in white or in the ACU to make up a pretty decent snow camouflage rig. And the mag pouches are usually, the pistol mag pouches are usually the odd man out that you can't find in any, good quantity. Right now for your larger capacity pistols, there's a bunch of them. They've got the French Military Police surplus double magazine pouches, 10 for $17.99. Basically, it's a little under $2 a piece. But those are double mag, very high quality mag pouches. Now you got to check to see if they'll fit what you've got. They also have single mag pouches, French Military Police surplus GK magazine pouches, 20 of them for $17.99, less than $1 a piece. Now those are single pocket. Here's the thing about both of those. If you're really putting together like a little under-the-coat rig like we've talked about, these are actually a pretty decent little solution to go along with all of the other ideas that we've kind of floated out there in way of making sure you got enough mags to not just get into the fight, but get out of it too. Guys, remember, you got to be able to get there. You don't just need half a tank of gas. You got to have enough to get there and enough to fight your way out. Just remember that. Well, that's enough to get you killed. Yeah, but not enough to finish the job. Anyway, God bless our republic. Death to the new world. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The empire's on the run.
We are on the march day and night.
Well, thank you for the feedback. We're going to go to break. You can stay where we are, guys, everybody. Hold on for a minute. Go grab a cup of coffee. Use the bathroom. And it is Weapons Wednesday. Second hour coming up. God bless.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MainMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MainMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MainMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you to always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm, and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors, so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you will fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside to dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
I cried because. Hey, that's okay. That's a rifle. That's cool. It's Weapons Wednesday. Anyway, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kartke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, south, north, west, and east. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube, on the Liberty Tree Radio channel, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, AM and FM conventional stations, CB-based stations. Good afternoon, Channel 31 test in the greater Battle Creek area this afternoon. And also UltraNet, Hallmark and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, along with CONUS, the outlying two states, territories, and the clock, 6:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K. 2020 Old Earth calendar. I'm giving all she's got, Captain. 2020, year of conflict, year of betrayal, battle for the Republic, the dance of swords. And you're right there for the beginning, and, well, the plan is to be here and stick around till the end. We win, they lose, we get on with business. Anyway, first of all, another thing I would point out about the debates last night, okay, in reality, what was happening is, as we know, Joe Biden is a meat puppet, and so Mr. Wallace was playing Kamala Harris in, let's just say, retrospect. Remember that in reality, Biden is going to be standing there with a tentacle from Netanyahu up his arse, and Kamala/Kamala, tomato, who cares? That turd, of course, will be right there to jump in and be the Supreme Soviet when the time comes. So Wallace was just practicing, helping Biden understand how, again, he really isn't going to be doing the job, and Wallace could even step in, as need be. Why not? Anybody. It really wouldn't make any difference anymore. The whole thing is a farce, a dog and pony show. But just a heads up, it was really kind of played out the way the world is really working right now. It's a farce, and it's going to continue to be a farce. There's another farce scheduled, just like the farce you just saw. A horrific, terrible waste of our life's time with people who are laughing their ass off at us, okay? This is the best our country has. Wow. I've met a lot of people that far exceed the potential, the honesty, and the integrity of that, of what you see there, okay, the whole dog and pony show. We've got better out there. It's just they're not going to be let anywhere near to see what's going on with the criminal aspect of the regime, the criminal bureaucracy, and the foreigners that are manipulating our country from outside through the District of Criminals and the departments accordingly. So, we got work to do. Anyway, we're headed towards a war, and it is, of course, the 30th of September, guys. It's Weapons Wednesday. So, you are at the end of September. Now, for October, like, what is it, by Friday, we're going to see the first of the money stripped from the United States going to the Israelis in force with the dog and pony, the government bureaucracy, Federal Reserve dog and pony show. We're into the beginning of the fiscal year, just like the trillions of dollars that just disappeared during the Corona beer virus scam. You guys got those punk checks for, whatever amount. We didn't get any of those, and I wouldn't have accepted them anyway. But fact is, $6 trillion left the country and no explanation. It's just gone. Now, that's digits that would have been lubricating the economy, but instead we're taken out by the kosher mafia and the international bankers and stuffed into their back pockets over in Haifa, Tel Aviv, and Brussels. And, of course, China, too. We know that. So, anyway, it is Weapons Wednesday. A couple other things. I had some people asking questions. There is a Czech rifle out there that's available. Yeah, I know what you're going to be asking about. Yes, there is. It's a nice rifle, actually. The Czechs made phenomenal weapon systems that were free and independent, and we have bought them before, okay? The problem is that the model that that you see right now, which by the way is not cheap anyway, if you go to, I think, Classic Firearms, everybody's got them, but if you go to Classic Firearms right now, one of the guns that pops up is not the magazine fed, but the counterpart to the SKS. This was a competition rifle. For most people who are not familiar with how that works, during the Cold War, there weren't that many people actually fighting amongst themselves on the communist side, but the Czechs were highly motivated to come up with their own designs, and they marketed them well. The Arab republics, in one form or another, typically picked some of the guns up, purchased them, and some were, of course, handed out both to the Vietnamese during the Vietnam War and were handed out to other countries as lend-lease or gifted communist bloc weapon systems. Now, the M52, the Czech M52 rifle, or VZ52 as you know it, has been around for quite some time. The problem is it is 7.62 by 45 caliber, and it's only $500. Well, it's no more than that because the problem is getting more ammunition. Now, I don't know if Privy Partisan is doing a production run of 7.62 by 45. I know they make it, but I don't know if any of it's going to get into the country at all. Whatever surplus was around, the last big wave was about, 5-6 years ago. There was a bunch of the ammo that came in, even though the guns weren't there. And the VZ52 is actually a decent little weapon. It has all the basic features of the SKS. It does have a detachable magazine, by the way. The SKS has a fixed. But these weapons, I think the only other thing that would compare to this in that family for that era would be the Rashid. Okay, you had the SKS, the VZ52, and then from the Mahdi plant in Egypt, you had the Rashid, which was the little sister to the Hakim rifle, and was in 7.62 by 39. Now, the Rashid, don't confuse that with a regular AK. The Egyptians made AKs too. The Rashid was a competition gun up against, but in the very low end, with the VZ52 and the SKS. The SKS won out hands over because of the number of production locations. But the VZ52 rifle itself is a very robust design, works really well. If you've got it, you got some ammo. Don't get rid of it, but remember, as you know, it's an orphan, cartridge. They're still made, but you're trying to get more in the U.S. is just ridiculous. The big thing here, again, is that there's also a lot of these that are still in the Arab republics. In for instance, Syria, there's a lot of VZ52s. There was a bunch of the ammunition that came back when the Israelis invaded Lebanon decades ago, and that's where the first of the stuff that was really cheap came in. So some of the guys who actually had carry-back guns from Vietnam, I know a few guys that had papered VZ52s because they weren't select fire, they were semi-auto only. And the guys brought them back papered, but they had no ammo. There wasn't anything available for them. Well, right now we're in the same boat. They're $500 a piece, but there's nothing that I know of. The weapons came in, but the ammunition didn't. And these may have even come from the Canadian route, because the Canadians have both the magazine-fed counterpart to the AK and this counterpart to the SKS, but they actually make them in 5.56. There is a rebarreled version that is in 5.56 NATO/US military cartridge. Canadians use the same round. And they've made both readily available, I guess. I don't know what the restriction on this is, only that maybe there wasn't at the time because it's a non-standard arm, and it was, unique, etc. I don't know how they got around it, whatever they did. But there are several really good articles, and there's some videos you could find on YouTube showing you the 5.56 version being shot. It is a process, though. Remember, to do that, you got to build a new barrel, and I don't think you're going to be doing that if you're one of my listeners. It's not likely, and it's a lot of effort. It would be cheaper to come up with a chamber insert in 7.62 by 39, and in fact, it would be abusive probably to the round. But I believe that you could probably do a collar like they did with the 30-06 to the 7.62 NATO for the U.S. Navy rifles, the Garands. The same thing could be done with the VZ, but right now there's nobody on the horizon doing that I know of. Now, I could be wrong. You can kick me in the microphone if that is the case. Still, it's $500. And for $500, there's a lot of other weapons out there you can pick up. So, no, I would not recommend the gun if you're collecting. There aren't going to be any more. I mean, we might pick up some randomly. I mean, there's some Lend-Lease gun that the Europeans try to dump on us to laugh about later. And we'll grab them if ammunition's available. We'll take anything as long as rigor mortis hasn't set in, and we'll employ it. We're just not going to use it as a frontline weapon. It would be a support weapon, okay? Otherwise, if you're looking in that area, as I said before, there are some Nagot rifles for $250 over at Classic Firearms. That's the cheapest Nagat that's been out there for a while. They're in surplus good condition. Good. G-O-O-D. Good condition. They're arsenal refinished. If you're not familiar with that, that's where they've really cleaned up the wood. They've, swelled it up and repolished it a little bit. It may or may not have the gloss finish. The one that they're showing right now looks like it's got a subdued oiled finish. Metal condition will be good, so it's probably got more wear on it. But a lot of these rifles were put through the cycle for reserve weapons, and so they cleaned them up, they inspected them, they put a certification on them, and stuck them in the Cosmoline and put them on the shelf. That's where these are coming from. And or they're Lend-Lease they got back finally, or they picked up off another invasion. Remember, they went to Afghanistan. The Russians did. So this could be any number of ways that this was recycled and recycled and recycled again. The Nagot's a good rifle. There's nothing wrong with it. There is 7.62 by 54 out there, whereas there isn't any of the Czech ammo. You might look. You may find some. I guess the balance would be, if you're looking for the Czech 7.62 by 45, is all these odd companies, there's probably a corner somewhere where someone has some of the ammo, but the ammo's not going to be cheap. It hasn't been cheap for quite some time. It was down to a nickel a round decades ago, but those days are long, long, long gone. The other consideration, like I said, is PPU. If you do have any weapon, you don't sell the weapon, you hang on to them, you find ammo where you can, keep putting the ammo on the shelf. That's really what you need to do. Now, otherwise, in a semi-auto gun, build an AR. That's your best bet, or an AK. You can still build AKs. We got a caller. Jump in there, caller.
Yes, sir. I'll change subject on a little bit. I picked up some odd 6 surplus ammo. On the cartridge, it's got this black, it's like a stain. I've tumbled them. I've tried Brasso. What is that black on that brass cartridge, and how do I get rid of it if I
don't
can?
think you. Yeah, it's not. What it is the brass somehow, whatever the alloy is, because brass is an alloy. Whatever the components are, whatever that mix for that particular breed of brass that they used, it sometimes takes a color set because of materials, either in the cardboard, or you find this, as you've probably seen, when the stuff is left on the ground for a period of time. There's nothing you can do to polish it out, but you can polish it up. Is it already been shot, or are you just trying to clean it off just to make it look better?
I'm just trying to make it look better. It's a HXP, and it was made in 1061. I got it from a friend that was selling it, and I just wondered if should I pull the slug and use the powder and get rid of the brass, or what? I would just get your opinion on it.
Well, is it oxidized? I mean, as long as it's not chipping or flaking, it just doesn't look pretty. Okay.
Yeah, right.
It'll shoot fine. In fact, once you shoot it, you get it along. If it's boxer primed, reload it again. Just do a quick inspection. It's weird, but it's because there are stainless. There's so many stainless. There's mixes. With brass, it's the same way. And what can happen is it is either an acid or an alkali response to the cardboard that the brass was in. And it's weird because it doesn't even have anything to do necessarily with moisture content. It is just a leaching process, and it's not the brass that caused the problem. It's the cardboard or the stock that the process they used for that. And that's where you get sometimes a reaction in the boxes. You see this with a lot of the Portuguese. There's a period from about 52 to 66, 68 with a lot of the Portugueso ammunition that came in years ago, it used to be in the battle packs. First, it was in the fabricated tins, which they solder the tins together, and then it came in battle packs. And then whatever it is, it's the cardboard. Each country has a different process, and you would see a mottling. Now, it doesn't oxidize. In other words, you touch it, it doesn't flake off, and it doesn't have a powder on it. It just doesn't look pretty. And when you shoot it, I've looked at it. We did an autopsy. You cut the brass in half, and we looked at the brass on the inside, and it doesn't look any prettier on the inside than the out, but it does look shinier, cleaner, even when it's been shot. And there's no breakdown, there's no flaking or whatever. So it's an appearance thing. As long as it doesn't create a patina that creates adhesion. The only thing I would do is, like we do anyway, is you take a cotton rag and wipe everything off as you're loading it, just to be safe. But I wouldn't worry too much about it. The only thing is, like you said, you can buff it until hell freezes over after you've shot it, and you'll never get that coloration out of the brass. But the brass will load just as many times as any other brass out there. And I used to see it a lot with the Portuguese was one, and what was the other one? I think it was for a while there was some Taiwanese 5.56 that came in. And I think actually that was Winchester contract. Some of it was supposed to be, and the Malaysian was the same way. And some of that, when it came back into the U.S., had that same kind of, it looked like a dark, it was weird. It was like always in an arc. It's not flat or square, but it could be depending on how it rests on the cardboard or inside the storage container, whatever the stock is. But it usually is kind of cloudy. It looks like it's like in balls or rolls. And about the size of your thumb. Like you put your thumb down, it's not fingerprints, it's not oil contamination per se, but it is something that's a reactive material process with the brass. So
yeah, Mark, that's why they have to use that acid-free paper for scrapbooking. Similar situation.
Yeah, exactly, because different, and again, these countries, some are richer, some are poorer, and they're not going to worry as much, or they never took it into consideration, mostly because, remember, the logic is that if you're using it yourself, you're probably going to war, and you've probably shot it up and it's gone before you have to worry about it. See?
Yeah. I'm going to save it for my Eddystone, my sweetie Eddystone. She'll handle anything, so I just wanted to ask you what it was, and I appreciate your time.
Well, was it U.S. military ball? What's it listed as? What does it say? What's the box look like?
It's in a bandolier on stripper clips. It's just got M2 5-round clips, HXP 1061. There's nothing there on the head stamp. There's really nothing on the head,
And it's in a it's in a bandolier and in a cardboard sleeve.
No, sir, it's not in a cardboard. It's in a stripper clip.
No, but okay, there's no sleeve inside the bandolier. There's no cardboard sleeve that it's resting in. It's just the ammo's just then resting in the cloth. Well, the cloth could have done that too then. Yeah, see, that makes sense. That's, again, remember, they wouldn't think about it. I mean, Bob made Bob was contracted to make the bandoliers, and whatever they did to dye them and stain them, that may have been because there's all kinds of different set processes that are used, including piss. Just something to think about there. I mean, it's like in Mexico, they use urine, animal urine and human urine for processing leather.
Long-term storage. They spray a lot of insect and rodent repellents in those warehouses for years.
There you go. And that's another thing, too. Well, and again, it could now that's another point. Thank you for bringing it up. That is incorporated into the cloth for the exact same reason. Just like in the MRE pouches. See, I brought this up many times. Most people, you don't probably know this, but if you have the older brown MREs, I don't know about the new ones. I don't think they do it necessarily with the tan ones. But the original MREs had an anti-rodent, anti-insect, anti-vermin additive that was designed so that if you see, they'll nibble on the dark brown ones. They would nibble on them and they'd stop. Well, it either is toxic or it's nauseous, but that is a chemical process that's added. It's another chemical that's leaching from the plastic. So there's an example of what we're talking about. And they did the same with cloth and material for the same reason. Once you pull stuff out of the can and it's hanging around, It can be out for any period of time, and rodentia, moths, and bugs break down equipment. And so it's one of those things that at different times, different countries have invested in. Good point. That's actually something that is another element, and those chemicals can be any number of different compounds. So
number 4 here, I bought a bulk bunch of candles and stuff. The candles smelled fine, but the cardboard they were in were rancid, like terrible chemicals. And I believe the warehouse was spraying them constantly to keep the rodents from eating the candles and stuff.
Because they'll nibble on the candle, they'll nibble on paraffin or natural wax. That's true. So, and again, this is where when we're dealing with stuff that's been around for a while, the big thing is, and before we go away from this, the big thing is, guys, take your thumb. If you have an area that's blemed, now the only consideration is, remember, if it blems and it's from there's like a point in the center that is really, really, really dark and focused, pull a bullet and take a look at the inside. Where typically we saw this is with corrosive or mildly corrosive long-stored ammunition, depending on what country it was from. And you really do have oxidation failure on the inside. It happens. But it's very apparent and it's very focused, pinpoint. You see this also on pre-World War I U.S. military ammo that was stored for a long time. And for the same reason, the oxidation, there's a chemical transfer that takes place with the rod powder, and wherever it made contact, because it literally is like Play-Doh when they load the ammo, it is squeezed into the case. And it's these rods, and eventually they break down. You don't care because you still end up with little, like cake decoration rod, cake decoration choco things. But the thing is, wherever it rested against the brass with the really old compounds, with some of them, and we don't know what the differential was, that's where the oxidation starts with the brass and it works from the inside out. But it's very apparent and very focused with that. Very different from just, say, that cloudy effect that you get like we're probably talking about here. Go ahead. I heard another voice. I cut him off. I didn't mean to. Well, I did mean to.
Hey, Mark.
Go ahead, caller. Jump in there, please.
That HXP, that's Greek ammo, correct?
It could be because, again, remember, a whole ton of that stuff came in with the civilian marksmanship program here over the last 10 years. And remember, they bought a bunch of it and thought it'd last for 15 years, and they sold out in 6 months. So there's a lot of that floating around all over the place right now. Yeah.
That's the 303 as well.
Yeah, and the 303, that's a good point. The 303, you'll see that usually it does the same thing we're talking about, but a lot of times that'll just go flat. A lot of people get concerned about that. And again, I don't know what the quality of the brass or why it is, but it was different production run. And so whatever the slug that they start out with, which looks like a droplet of brass, when they start the process of extruding that, I think part of the reason that we see where it's flat across the whole of the case, like on the 303, is because they're working a rimmed round. So they use a different type of brass accordingly, which is not
Go ahead. The 308 Portuguese, the stuff that was really nasty, that was like the last batch that Samco had come in, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, they had a lot of stuff that they held on to for a long time, too, and so we don't know. I mean, I don't know what their storage system was. One person I was talking to from J&G Sales said that they had millions of rounds in containers all over the place. That example is that 6.5 Swedish Mauser that they've got. They have millions of rounds. He said, I talked to him, I said, well, what kind of a deal can you make? He goes, oh, trust me, we have millions of rounds of this stuff. We bought all of it. And it's like the same was true with like the 308. Remember they had some 7mm Mauser that was the same way. In fact, that our caller brought up the first time. It was South American. They were the only company that had surplus, and they had the stuff so long that the cardboard, of course, just disintegrated around the brass. But it shot. I mean, didn't shoot pretty, but it shot. And it was typical for the last of the typical South American systems. The stuff, the way they stored it, not so good all the time. So, and again, Samco, I don't think did any better. Well, they probably used shipping containers. I mean, they were smart. They didn't want to lose the inventory. But, it's just that where the stuff comes from. Example, when all this Chinese weapons came in the late 80s and 90s, guys, I talked to the guys who went over there and bought the stuff because I knew them personally, and they said when they went over to China, the Chinese literally, imagine the side of a berm, a hill. They bored a hole in it, they laid wood on the inside, and then they just grabbed the weapons and threw them in. And that, a lot of the stuff, when they went over there, they couldn't believe how they were storing the stuff, but again, they also were talking about destroying it. And they bought most of those weapons for $3 and $4 and $6 a piece, like the broom handle Mausers that were brought in. Remember when there was just tons of those? They paid $3 a piece per gun for those. And he said,
"All right, Mike."
Yeah, so
Mark,
good
I'll let
point.
you go.
Yeah, thank you. Samco was like the notorious. Oh my God, what the hell is this?
Those the Wowzer Works ones, Mark?
Yeah, the Wowzer Work Mausers came from, the Wowzers they were the Chinese copies. And that's a collectible category all unto itself now because there were so many independent factories. In fact, if you go to the Forgotten Weapons channel on YouTube, he covers a lot of the pistols. I don't think he's done anything on the Mauser rifles that are Chinese. But if you look at the pistol collections, they did so much inane stuff where these guys were building guns. They had no clue. I mean, they make copies, but they work, they shoot, they put bullets downrange. But there's things on the guns that they don't serve any purpose other than they look like what the Europeans were making, or, well, kind of like a picture of one. With the Mausers, they're pretty much the K98 actions, for the most part. Their variation in length, barrel length, was purely a matter of which little factory was making them out in the middle of BFE. But when we got them, some of them actually looked like they've been, and they were. I saw a picture of how these were racked. They were standing up in racks, but it was like they had been hit with water, like in a water torture, for however many decades or years they were in the underground. And when they came out, some of them we had to soak them in everything you can imagine to break them down and turn them around. And they were so cheap that they got them for pennies over there. And Paragon out of Chicago was selling you 20 K98 Mausers from China for $100, and that's not that long ago. Now, when they basically were fence posts, okay, is what most people thought about them. But on the other hand, with all these buyback programs, you got a Mauser for $5 that really was a Mauser, and you could take it to a buyback program like here in Detroit and get $100 for it, which meant you could take that $100 and buy another 20 Mausers and go back and clean out their bank accounts. You see how that works? So, and that's what a lot of guys did. There's a gentleman in Detroit, his name is General, that's his last name. And he did exactly that with 3 55-gallon barrels of just debris guns that he put together, and he cleaned out their account in one day. Because in fact, he was very mean about what he did. He covered them with oil. He made sure they were greasy. When he took them in, and they said, "Where do you want them?" He said, "Well, just put them on the floor there." He just turned the barrels upside down, oil and all, and just dropped them on the firehouse floor there. And oh God, it made a mess. But he got his money. They couldn't argue. They didn't like it, but they had to give him the money.
The barrel was more valuable than the guns.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he took shotguns that had been blown out and duct taped them back together. He'd take a stock. He took a barrel that was blown out on the end, or so rusted you could barely, it wasn't straight. It had dollops in it. It was so heavily corroded. And he duct taped, or he screwed a receiver to it, and then he put it in the barrel, and that's what he did. And he took those all in. And after that, they said, "Well, you can only bring 3 guns in." And then after that, "Well, you can only bring 1 gun in at a time." And by the way, they were out of money. In other words, he pretty well ground them to a halt with junk. And the only thing about it is that these Chinese Mausers, again, they were unique. And each one, or most of them, were never, when you got 20, maybe 2 were alike. But here's what you got in amongst that. Czech, German, and Polish Mausers that were pickups from World War II that the Russians had given to the Chinese as Lend-Lease guns. And what we did is we separated them. The Czech guns went in one pile, the Polish ones went in another, the Model 29s. And we went through those and completely rebuilt them with all the other spare junk parts laying around that were not junk. And guys, we ended up with a big pile of really nice K98 Mausers made in Europe. And we sold well, even the Chicom ones, I got to point out, a lot of them we cleaned up, but we ended up, rebarreling with other unique barrels that were laying around, like from back then it was Sarco, and also from Numeric, gunpartscorp.com. And even those guns were brought back online. Now, the problem is when they were the Wowzer works, in other words, because they didn't know the English language, instead of it saying Mauser, the copies, they had a W in place of the M, so it was like, it's a Wowza. Wow. It's a Wowza. But they also did broom handle Mausers the same way. So it was a broom handle Mauser. If you pay attention, you'll see the knockoffs, which really are better quality. The broom handle Mausers the Chinese did, they did a really good job with. All the parts pretty much are interchangeable with standard broom handle Mausers, even though it might be a Bolo. The last big wave that came in, if any of you were fortunate and you got them, the last wave of broom handle Mausers were in 45 ACP, which was very popular in the broom handle in China, but you just never saw them outside of China. Now, when those came in, they jacked the price up a little bit, but then now they're worth thousands. Those pistols are worth thousands of dollars a piece. So consider this. If you were afraid to shoot it, but you bought one of those, understand that the appreciation now in price means that you could go out, trade that gun that you maybe paid $60 or $50 for when they were coming in. You could dump that gun for $1,500, $1,600 on the market, especially if it's a 45 ACP model. And you would be able to buy your M1A or, a set-me rifle and, a regular one or whatever you want for a very good price. In fact, probably tell the guy, hey, I'll trade this, go get me one of these. And then he'll scrounge one up for a better price if he can, and you get a good trade. You take a $50 broom handle Mauser and turn it into a main battle rifle with some magazines. That's a good trade.
Hey, Mark, I got a question, number 4.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, what's the copyright lifespan of a Mauser broom handle like that? What keeps somebody from taking that and remaking it and making it better and
you could. Yeah, no, it could be made right now. Actually, with CNC, I'm amazed someone hasn't done, because with CNC, it would be no more expensive to make a broom handle than anything else out there. In fact, here's the thing. There are enough new military old parts laying around for certain weapons that, if somebody were smart, they could take a CNC machine and make like an exact copy and even put a serial number on it, and it could be out there. I mean, I would never do this, but if you were to make original receivers that aren't original receivers and you just put a random serial number on it, and then you take advantage of the piles and piles of spare parts from a certain rifle, there'd be no way that anybody would know that that was actually new production if you did it right.
Well, I just thought that people could start a whole new gun company, and that's pay the $18 million, whatever it is, for the Remington. Start a whole new gun company and just remake the old stuff that's copyright has gone off of.
Well, I think the broom handle, is free and clear, because it's the model 1896, and it really is not a bad weapon. It's if you took modern metallurgy that we have, I mean, there's no reason for you not to build a gun that would be, say, a broom handle Mauser and 40 caliber Smith & Wesson.
Well, let's take that same mechanism and make it into a rifle.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of other rifles out there. Example is, I don't think there would be any restriction like on the VZ52. And if you took polymers and, incorporated that for the stocks, and if you took some of the other metallurgy and even plastic for some of the other components, which is what Remington did, by the way, with a bunch of their guns, you could crank the rifle out for a reasonable price. It would still be, okay, this is the thing I've said for years. When the SKS was $56, I tried to explain to everybody, guys, we can't make that gun for $56. Not back when they were coming in. The CNC was out there, but, the CNC tech, nowadays, you could map out a gun like that and start cranking them out like there's no tomorrow. And, I mean, really, it would be very economical. But, back in the day, and even today, $56 for an SKS when they were coming in by the millions. There was no reason that it was insane to pass it up. Everybody should have bought a case, and a lot of people bought cases. I know people that's their retirement package because, General Motors screwed all these guys out of their retirement after they retired, especially after NAFTA and GATT. And the only thing that saved them is that when they were working back in the day, they bought all these cheap Mausers and all these cheap SKSs and warehouses of ammo. And they're that's how they're surviving now. They're actually, their retirement, they cut in half. They got rid of their medical. So the only reason they're actually able to eat right now and keep their property is because of the stuff they bought when they were making money hand over fist as an employee. And so that's what I'm always looking for is somebody. I just ran into that with a machine shop. Like I said, last weekend, same kind of situation. Go ahead, caller, jump in there. I hear another voice.
Yeah, this is Fluffy. I was just imagining for a minute an updated broom handle Mauser with a recontoured grip and either a removable magazine well, and have it in a variety of calibers. The broom handle Mauser could probably take 5.56. It could almost certainly take 7.62 by 39, and the pistol version wouldn't that be really cool in 10 millimeter?
Well, you know what? You wouldn't have to go that big. Grip? Yeah, you wouldn't go that big, but think about this: 5.7 FN. It would be I'd have to look at the cup pressures and whatever, but that pistol could be engineered, could be just spec'd out. Since you're building a new gun, you could spec it out to do 5.7, and that's like a baby assault rifle cartridge right there, just the way it is.
Easily.
Yeah, and then otherwise, like I said, 40 Smith & Wesson 10 millimeter would be another one. 10 mil would be a great cartridge. And as far as the detached magazine goes, remember that after the Schnell pistol, after they first made the Model 96, the next logical step up, or I should say modification, was to make a magazine-fed version. They called it the Schnell pistol, and typically it was used by law enforcement, and it was in full auto, not just semi. The idea was for crowd control, not so much for shooting people, but for cracking over people's heads and breaking up, a crowd. Obviously, they probably shot enough people, and they were trying to be polite and claim that they were shooting over people's heads. Part of that was because felt recoil and, control of the weapon was, up and down with a gun that light. But if you take that basic weapon and you apply the present science that we have, including the idea of a detachable shoulder stock, which is evil and bad and evil, which is all BS, the gun itself would be a fun weapon to shoot, and it's really a comfortable gun to fire and operate. It is not a bad design. I'll tell you another one that would be great. It's built like a brick doghouse, and the biggest problem is how many working parts are there, but there aren't that many, and the gun was quite reliable, and that's the Moss 49. /56, the one that everybody sees. They want $1,000 for that gun. Guys, again, those things were coming in for $56, $68, then they went to $100 a piece, and on an average, they paid about $125. That gun could be made new and with modern manufacturing, but you could make it look just like the original and give it some Star Wars lived-in look to it and just put them out there quietly, and nobody would know. And you make it in 7.62 by 51 NATO. You don't make it in 7.5 French. Half of the guns that are out there that presently are Moss 49 56s are in 308. They are in 7.62 NATO. But they were, what it is they were the barrels were reamed out. It was done by one of the companies, and it really they have the original 7.5 barrel on them. They just rechambered them. Okay. The gun itself is it's beefy. It's heavy, but I'll tell you what, stays on target. The weapon is very comfortable to shoot, and it had all the features you'd really want. No safety. Well, it could depend on the model, which year. But it's semi-automatic. You could build it so it'd take either a AR-10 mag or an M14 or an HK91 mag, and you'd have 20-round magazine capacity. You've got a very, very compact, short action, and again, a good shooter all the way around. That's another one. It wouldn't be most people wouldn't be their first choice, mostly because most people have never shot it. But we have a militia.
I would definitely go with the HK91 mag. proven and cheap.
Right, still the cheapest one out there. Well, again, or the AR-10 simply because there's all kinds of brand new production. And that's the other consideration is as we run out of the surplus, we're going into the next generation of mags will be the, what is the most common still being made? AR-10 for the moment because they're making them in polymer. The big thing here with either one is the weapon itself would lend itself towards, again, ease in production. It's not that complicated a gun by comparison to others, and the gas system is pretty straightforward and simple. The other thing, again, is with that 20-round magazine, it could stand up against anything else it's going to run into in its class, and for that matter, any other firearm for that matter. Also, remember, one of our militia units here, what we did, everybody bought a bunch of those back when they came in, and they were cheap because they were for the shoot, okay? And there was some 7.5 French ammo around. What we've done is we put all those rifles in one militia unit here. So we have a unit that actually is almost completely outfitted with, or has the option to go with the Model 4956, and they love it. The problem is there's just no more. I mean, and I'm not going to spend $1,000 on that gun off the shelf when I can buy a whole pile of American bolt-action scoped rifles, like I just said. I could buy almost 3 or more, actually, 3 to 4 American-made bolt-action scoped rifles for the price of that one French surplus gun, which I can't get ammo for. Okay, so there's the balance right now. It's like, what makes more sense? In fact, for that matter, I can get 4 Nagants for the price of one of the Mosses, and I can get ammo for the Nagant. I can't get ammunition for the Moss right now. Go ahead. Jump in there, caller.
Yeah, this is Tex-Mex. Yeah, I just want to go back to the vest. Hope that's okay. I want to go back to the DPM vest. I know that the soft plates are ballistic and stab resistant, but what about the rest of the vest? That's what I wanted to ask the other caller when I was listening. Is the rest of the vest have any protection at all? Is it Kevlar? I mean, No,
it's Kevlar all the way around. Yeah, it's wraparound. That's it's basically the typical for the post. Well, they had to use it in Ireland, but it was overlapping with the other model which they had before this, which was OD green. And if you look, you'll see it used in the Troubles era with the British regular military in Ireland. That's where you first see that vest, as far as I've known. But it does have full wraparound torso protection, and you can still insert other plates, which is what we talked about before. I go buy 2 of these. Actually, they sold out of those. A couple of the backpack plates. There's been a couple of deals. Bostech, what was it? Bostech. They had 2 for $65, and I kicked myself in the butt. I should have grabbed on that the moment we saw them. It was a special deal. Now, I'd have taken 2 of those and stuffed them inside the vest that he picked up, and now I'm basically up to where everybody else is with armor, but I got wraparound armor too, not just front and back plates, which would be cool.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, if the rest of the vest had, especially for stab, like you said, keep the the monkey pokers from getting you from the back or something like that. And you had also said something about wearing soft armor over hard armor. I've got a ceramic plate with a carrier, and you were talking. Would you wear that over or under the ceramic?
Oh, I go the other way. I go the hard on the out and the soft chewy on the inside. That's the best way to go, I think. Only because, again, remember, let the rifle round do it. Let the rifle armor do its job, and then any energy left over is dissipated over the whole of the rest of the Kevlar.
Huh.
It's a sandbag underneath your plate. Basically, think about it that way. You've got a sandbag sitting underneath the hard plate. You've got ceramic or steel, whichever it is. But you can go either way. It would work either way. I mean, but typically, because of the way that most of the plate carrier or ceramic vests are built up, I would put it over top of the soft because it also should be more comfortable. Okay,
right.
Think about it. It's kind of like if you're in layers, if you're doing the sandwich layers, you do the soft armor, you do the plate armor with the equipment, or if you're doing 3 layers, in other words, your ceramic vest or your steel plate or just a carrier, then you put your gear over top of everything. Now, it still means you got to be able to get out of it at some point. Remember that. And sometimes you may want to get out of it fast. So know where the knife is, and if all else fails, cut the Kevlar. Cut the Velcro. Cut the straps. Always remember, just be ready. You might have to get out of it. You don't ever know what you're going to be in, okay, or what you might get into. So at least one really good edge should be where you can grab it and get to it immediately, and know where you can cut your soft points to get out of the stuff. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've got one of the Benchmade tools. Benchmade made some tools for getting off boots and stuff like that. It's not a knife for fighting or a knife for use as regular use. It's designed for like in an emergency, getting shirts, pants, whatever you need to get off. It's got like a hook on it.
Right. It's like a paracord cutter, but the doc carries it. That's what the medics are supposed to be carrying.
Right.
They got to get through to where your injury is, and they got to get the junk out of the way, and that's what they're going to do. They're not going to have any discussion about whether or not you want to save something. They're going to try to be saving you. So the idea is, time counts for everything there, and they'll cut their way through to whatever they need to. So it's a good point. That's a good choice in tools. It's something to have anyway. Usually you can tuck it around. Pilots have it. If you look at your flight suits, you'll have that inner thigh left pocket. Basically, that's what that's for, is that tool. It's where your arm can reach down, grab it, and you find it automatically. And if you'll notice on all the flight suits, basically you'll find those pockets in the same place, no matter which NATO set it is. And that's what's supposed to be hanging there, is one of those cutout tools. So, and there's several variations depending on what era it is too. Somebody goes, "Well, I had this." Yep, you did. And then they changed to this, and then they changed again, and then they changed again. Because systems change, because somebody passed a brown envelope to someone or whatever, or they decided that this works better. So you'll run into different styles depending on when the person served, but the basics still apply. And it's a good thing to have. It's one of those that would be just handy for everything from car accidents to combat gear, and maybe you're on fire. Hey, I want to get this warm stuff off real quick. It's kind of hot and sticky, It's kind of melting on me. Okay, so you may want to get out fast, and that's where. Or you're in water. I'll tell you the other one, exactly what it was meant for with pilots. Although again, any number of things can happen with a parachute. But remember, you get in water. The idea is you want to be able to drop the equipment. Now, you still want a lanyard. Now, if you knew you were going to be in a water operation, people don't talk about this much. In a water operation, you actually have to take into consideration you're going to drop it. But understand that typically they also had a lanyard, like basically paracord or cotton cord, that would allow you to be able to recover your equipment. You might drop it so far to get, save your life, but you still need the equipment to stay in the fight. So
water crossings and boats. So if the boats flip over, you want to be able to find and recover.
Exactly, and that's where, and a lot of times you'd even tie it right to I don't know if you notice this, they've got Swedish tactical, they're not orange, they're tactical OD green combat, not inflatable, they're rigid vests. And if you'll notice, they have tie stations in different spots. And everybody asked me, what are those for? I said, well, think about it. What would you be carrying you might want to drop? And if you have to even get out of that vest, or if you can release, you have you lose the dead weight, you get to the surface, and now you're breathing rather than being found in a pile of corpses laying on the bottom of the river or laying on the bottom of the lake. I've noticed something. I got to mention this before we go. Tarawa. I'm noticing how they're rewriting the history of Tarawa. Guys, I know my dad was in the Navy, World War II. Tarawa was a cluster screw for one reason. They miscalculated the tidal pool, the tidal processes, and the guys ended up bellying out a mile from shore. Okay, I'm watching how they rewrite and BS history to make you feel good about things. In many cases, the guys, what happened, they were taking fire. The Japanese were doing exactly what they were supposed to do. They were stuck on the reefs, so what they were on the coral shoals. So what they did is they opened the front end of the landing craft. Guys, 35 men rolled out of the landing craft and went out into these little coral tidal pools and all drowned right there, dead. All of them, 100%. You see anything about that anymore? They gloss that garbage over so quick to make you feel good about a cluster screw that they were a part of. And that's something to pay attention to, because the guys they were found trying to get out of their equipment. Everyone was drowned, deader than a doornail. 35 men piled up, one on top of the other, in a 20-foot, little pool or like little crevice. The landing craft was stuck on the coral, but in front of the boat, it was, there was a dollop in the subsurface. And when they all bailed out, they all died together, trying to scramble on top of each other, suffocating. And that's a reality. And again, like my dad said, these guys, you found them, they were trying to pull their gear off. Of course, they had last gasp. But that's a reality of how things work. Now, the idea is, prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. But like I said, fickle finger of fate, you can't deal with, or you can't have, you can have a plan, but every once in a while, everything catches up with you just wrong. And
recon the local fishermen.
Nope, repeat, I'm sorry.
Recon, the local fishermen would have told you that where that problem is, but they didn't do a proper recon on that area.
Well, in fact, Tarawa, the instructors I had, one of them was one of the original frogmen. And this was in 1975. He was still very much alive. He gave us 2 classes, one on survival, escape, and evasion, and the other one was on, again, the history of SEALs, because he eventually was with UDT. But when Tarawa took place, and this is what they don't talk about, because when Tarawa took place, they realized that they had no working knowledge of the tidal processes of the Pacific. And so his job was to get dropped off an island. After that happened, they said they wanted volunteers. He volunteered. He goes, I was young. And he goes, all the BS you see in the movies, throw it out. He goes, we had a plastic 10-cent diving mask from a 5 and dime. They had flippers they scrounged up from somewhere else. And then basically what they did is they greased their OD green uniforms. They used axle grease. And that's what they wore when they were in the water. And they would drop them off by submarine, and they would be there for anywhere from 7 to 20 to 25 days, monitoring and recording everything. And every so many days, the submarine might show up, or was supposed to show up, and they did. And he goes, during the night, you'd inflate a one-man survival raft, and get in that to get out of the water. During the day, you'd either you'd deflate the raft, make everything disappear, and you'd be floating and trying not to be nothing but a speck on the water. Or you'd sneak into the island you were watching, because your job was to also record intelligence. But that was the game. That was how they played. And he goes, for most of the war, that's how that was their outfit. None of this garbage with the special frogman gear. He goes, that didn't show up to the very end of the war. They didn't have tanks. They didn't have any special custom equipment. Whatever they had was whatever they could improvise, and most of it was just from whatever was off the shelf, except for the 5 and dime mask. They did get a snorkel eventually, he said, and they had flippers. He goes, but other than that, it was whatever you could piece together or fabricate with a guy off a destroyer or the sub that would build it for you. And that was it. And it was all because of Tarawa. And again, there were hundreds of men that did this. But they became the UDT, Special Demolition and Warfare Operations Unit, which eventually was the mother of the SEALs, as everybody knows them now. So, again, heads up, guys. There's always things to learn and remember, and most important is little stuff counts for big when your life's at risk. So think ahead. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. God bless our republic. Death to the New World Order.
The New World Order.
Here we go. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run.
And we are on the march both day and night.
We're going to get out of the way for the time being. Craig from Forbidden Knowledge coming up next. God bless y'all. Bye-bye.
Always pay the
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at
This session is no longer being recorded. Goodbye.
Military.com.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country.